Hey guys, what is up? Lefty back here again, and thanks for checking out the video. So real quick story. I was in kind of a local gun shop that just opened about 30-40 minutes away from here and stuff like that. And it's a big box, kind of sporting goods slash hunting gun store kind of thing. And I was checking out the gun supply, and this is a new store, and they had the most stock I've ever seen, at least in the recent past, for them, you know, when the COVID thing kind of took over. But looked in the CZ shelf, and they had one of these things sitting there for a pretty good price, basically just over 400 bucks. So I was like, you know what, fuck it, let's buy one and pick it up. So got one of these, and now we're going to talk about it. But also, real quick finish to the story. When I bought it, the dude kind of comes over and whispers like, hey, you guys got any 9mm? I'm like, no, definitely not, which is not too far from the truth. I mean, we got a decent amount, but not as much as I would like. But because the shelves were barren, mind you. But he's like, yeah, I can sell you some boxes we got in the back. I'm like, sweet, dude. It's all, I feel like I'm doing a drug deal while I'm buying a pistol, so it's kind of fun. But I was expecting to come out with like a case of 9mm. It comes out holding 2 boxes, one Fiocchi and one Hornady Critical Defense or whatever. I'm like, he's like, which one do you want? Which one do you want? I'm like, the Fiocchi, dude, because that Critical Defense shit is garbage. But anyway, so we're going to talk about the CZ P10 and get right into it. So this is a pistol that has a whole lot of hype, and as people know, the CZ is kind of the hipster pistol, the Glock without the Glock branding on it. But I was really intrigued when this pistol was first announced because it was a lower price point than the Glock, and it does everything better than the Glock, and blah blah blah. And it's just, you know, it's awesome kind of thing. There was a whole bunch of hype on it, like the trigger's amazing, oh, it feels so good in the hand, blah blah blah. And then I remember when I was really interested in the hype is super high and stuff like that, the goddamn thing was never in stock. You go around and then nobody's got a CZ P10. So the hype eventually faded and stuff like that, and then they finally started to come into stores. I remember holding one, I'm like, I'm not feeling it so much. At that point, the hype was still kind of high, but it was nowhere near the way it was. And once I felt it, I was kind of disappointed because the trigger, people were saying the trigger was better than the PPQ. No siree. I mean, it's good, don't get me wrong. We'll talk a little bit about that later in the video, but it is nowhere near as good as the PPQ. The PPQ has by far the best stock striker fire pistol out there, including the Hudson H9 RIP. But yeah, I thought it was just a little bit odd, and then the magazine release was weird and blah blah blah. So anyway, that was the Gen 1, that kind of whole thing, and now this is the Gen 2. For people who do not know, I'm not exactly sure on the entirety of the little changes they did to it, but I remember it was a couple things. One, they got rid of the ambi mag release, so that's gone. That's kind of a kind of thing. I don't really care personally. And they also fixed the striker issue. I'm not exactly sure what was wrong with the striker, but I remember if you pulled it back, you could actually spin the actual striker assembly inside of the thing when it was locked back like this, which was kind of weird because then potentially you could have the thing hang up and actually not go forward into battery. Of course, nobody could actually duplicate this when actually firing, so it was kind of a whatever. But CZ made some rolling changes, and now this is kind of the Generation 2 CZ P10, so we can actually get into this bitch. So upon first handling, I really love the grip. The grip is a little bit more vertical compared to the Glock, which is a lot more aggressive and stuff. And it just feels good. You have a little bit more meat of the lower frame to actually put on. So as you can see, like it's a pretty big area, and you have a nice little checkering and stuff. So you have a nice little thing to build your support grip. It feels pretty damn good in the hand, I will say. As well too, I remember the first Gen 1 being a little bit more stabby in the grip, and it seems like they've kind of toned it back a little bit. I remember it being probably just as aggressive as the M&P 2.0 sandpaper grip. Now it's kind of somewhere between the 2.0 and the Gen 4 Glocks in terms of how aggressive it is. Like, it feels pretty good, but it will start to wear in your hands a little bit as opposed to like other pistols and stuff. And in terms of stuff, I guess I'll go over the stuff that I like first, and then we'll kind of go into the stuff I'm like, a little bit off. But yeah, the grip feels really good. It points very nicely, even though the grip is a little bit more straight up and down, as I said, but it points very good. The sights are metal, they are aluminum for, you know, people who care. They're still better than Glock sights, so it has that going for them, and most people change sights anyway. So if you were going to pick this pistol up, it's pretty much ready to go, more so than a Glock. So it is what it is. And I'm going to compare this gun to a Glock because that's kind of what CZ kind of intended, because this thing fits in Glock holsters, which it does fit in mine, which is a G code. It's a little bit more of a, you put a Glock into the G code, it's a nice click when it actually snaps in. This is just kind of mushy, almost like it's not really designed to go into it, but it fits in there, I suppose. But anyway, back to the gun. In terms of the design, though, I think it's actually a really, really nice looking pistol. The early CZs, when they first were starting to were getting imported, were a little bit rough in terms of their machining. But yeah, pretty much all new manufactured pistols and guns from CZ are very, very, very nice looking. But yeah, steel sights. I love the trigger. I guess we'll pull that real quick because everybody's really happy about the actual trigger and stuff like that. People were saying it was like the PPQ. Not really. It's kind of a really, really nice Glock trigger. It's a little bit more smoothed out. It is not as light as people like to say, but the reset is nice and short. And then it's got, for a striker pistol kind of design in self-defense, I kind of really like this design. This is my kind of preferred because it gives me a good amount of safety, because I can actually press out, put my finger on the trigger, and then prep it to the wall, and then I still have about 5 pounds in order to actually break the shot, which gives me a little bit more peace of mind than having a really, really, really light trigger like the PPQ was a little bit too light in my opinion. But as you can see, it's got a nice kind of sponginess. It's a little bit smoother than like the Glock sponge. Then you hit the wall and it's got a little bit of creep, probably about 1 millimeter, but then it breaks pretty clean, and then it resets nice and clean. I would say it's a little bit above 5.5 pounds, or right around there. I know these things do break in very nicely to about 4-ish pounds. So, you know, it's pretty much right on point with the Glock. But I do like the trigger shoe a lot better. It does feel a lot better on my finger. People are saying it's not very wide. I think it's pretty wide enough, and I think it's actually it almost feels flat face when you actually pull it to the rear. So I do like that. I'm not a big fan of flat face triggers on pistols, but it actually feels pretty good. But then again, I'm kind of rambling all around. Excuse me, because I'm trying to remember everything. But going back to the sights, they are kind of the glow in the dark night sights. If you charge them with light, they will glow in the dark. You know, again, it's better than nothing, I suppose, but I would honestly just black these out and then get a fiber optic front. That's probably what I'm going to do, because CZs are actually pretty easy to install sights, at least relatively. What else? That's pretty much it. Otherwise, it's pretty good. You have interchangeable back straps, whatever. I like the small, feels good in the hand, blah, blah, blah. So let's get into stuff that I'm kind of about. So first thing about is the magazines are high quality. They're 15 rounds, blah, blah, blah. Good shit. I will say, though, they have a little bit of a weirdness to them, because when they changed it from the ambi mag release, it used to rely on this front slot right here. Now, in order to, so it would kind of pivot up like this, and then the magazine would click into that part, and then when you hit the mag release, it would actually pivot out to let the magazine fall free, if that makes any sense. Now they just have the regular slots on the side there to allow for compatibility with other pistols like P07s, P09s, blah, blah, blah. And they're good, except if you hear that double click, if you slam it home, and actually, I don't know why, it actually will go past the actual magazine catch, go above it, and actually come back down and seat. I don't really know why it does that. I mean, I've never seen a pistol actually do that. But yeah, it's just kind of weird. Now, I have put 0 rounds through this because I cannot afford to actually put a whole bunch of rounds through this, but I found that just by doing a whole bunch of dry practice and stuff like that, and it's weird because the thing will literally go past where it's supposed to seat and then snap into the seat. So I don't know if that's going to give it extra wear. I don't know if it's out of spec or something like that, but that's a little, I don't know, that's not whatever, but we'll see if it actually has any type of malfunction issues. I doubt it, but that kind of is one thing that's a little bit concerning. To have something like that. That just seems like something out of spec or something kind of issue. But and then the serrations on the slide are pretty good. I think they're a little bit on the sharp side, and people might call me a bitch. What's fine, I have delicate man hands. I mean, what am I supposed to do? I think the best slide serrations on the market for a stock pistol are going to be the M&P 2.0s, or just the 1.0s. They have it too, that kind of that wavy fish scale thing, because that is amazingly sticky, but it's not super duper sharp. After doing like a half an hour of just dry practice, constantly reloading this thing, it does kind of wear your hands out a little bit more than probably what it should. But you know, they do the job, and it does look kind of cool, and they have nice little like chamfering on the slides and stuff like that. So whatever, it looks cool. It's just a little bit less than ideal, I think, in my opinion. But the next thing that I just do not like is the slide release. Nobody but Glock can seem to get the ambi slide release correct. The M&P has this issue. I guess a couple other guns do have this thing too, but the amount of weight that it takes to actually drop the slide on the right side of the gun is just amazingly hard. Trying to do this with a empty magazine as well is goddamn impossible. I actually have to go up and pinch both sides in order to get the drop, which kind of defeats the purpose of having an ambi slide release. But I mean, I did try with rounds in the magazine and also dummy rounds, and it does fix the problem a little bit. Still, it's just not super duper ideal in my opinion, but kind of is what it is. Another thing I'm not a big fan of in terms of the slide release is how big they are, because if you notice how profile of them, they're very, very flush to the gun, which is good, but they're just super duper long in terms of up and down, right? If you want them wide but you want them shallow, that's fine, but they're wider than they need to be, and they're also longer than they need to be, because when you catch the slide release with your thumb or your finger, you're catching the top of it, because this is so flush you have no grip to it. So really you're just catching the slide. So honestly, they could have just cut easily half of this piece off and then bubbled it up to make it a little bit better. Now, why do I say that's important? Because I probably won't have this issue just by the way I hold my hands. It doesn't seem like I will interfere. I know it's kind of bright out here. It's an amazing, beautiful day at Minnesota. It's way too fucking hot. It's like 82 degrees out. I'm sweating my balls off here. But the way that I hold the pistol, it doesn't seem like I will interfere with that slide release at all. So for me, it won't have an issue, but I have seen other people have that issue. So just kind of whatever. But I think the design of these could have been better. And I know they sell aftermarket extended mags, or excuse me, extended slide release. I just think, though, one, they're a little bit too expensive, and then two, they're too damn big. I just want a little bit of a bump. Like the Glock gets it right. It's about that damn big, and it's just got a little bit of a bump so you can hook your finger on it. Like that's all it needs to be and stuff. So, but yeah, guys, that's pretty much it. It's a pretty good pistol. I think it's going to be, I mean, it feels really good, and I already know they're reliable from just things on the internet and stuff. Obviously, you can do more research on YouTube, and there's a whole bunch of videos on these things and stuff like that. The only thing I wish there will be more, hopefully, is just kind of aftermarket stuff, including magazines, because these things are impossible to find, and they're like 35 bucks, which is kind of unfortunate, but they're obviously cheaper than anything from HK, SIG, that kind of stuff. So, you know, it is what it is. It's a good pistol. I'm happy to put some rounds through it and see how it goes. Report back to you guys. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. Be good.